Welcome to Signal and Clue, the channel where we don't just read the news. We read what the news is trying to hide. Every episode, we take real headlines, real events, real data, and we dig for the signals buried underneath the noise. Geopolitics, markets, power, strategy, the things that actually move the world, before the world knows it. If that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. Now, let's get into today's episode. Everyone's watching the headlines. Iran vows long and painful strikes. Oil prices hit wartime records. Negotiations stalled again. But here's the question nobody's asking. What if the noise is the message? Today, we're going to do something different. We're not going to read the headlines. We're going to read between them. I'm going to show you 3 signals hidden inside 2 newspaper articles from today that suggest the US-Iran deal may be closer than anyone thinks, and why it might happen before Trump flies to Beijing on May 14th. Let's go. The retreat nobody noticed. Look at this headline. Iranian official pledges long and painful strikes on US attacks. Sounds tough, right? Maximum aggression. But I want you to notice something subtle, something most analysts completely missed. Look at what Iran is not saying anymore. 2 weeks ago, Iran's position was clear and unconditional. Lift the blockade of our ports first, then we'll talk. That was their opening demand. That was their red line. Now, listen carefully to what the new supreme leader actually said this week. He said Iran would implement, quote, new legal frameworks and management of the Strait of Hormuz. And he warned the US, if you strike again, we will respond powerfully. Do you see the shift? He's no longer demanding the blockade be lifted as a precondition. He's now framing Hormuz as something to be negotiated under a new legal framework. That's not the same position. That is Iran quietly moving the goalposts and hoping nobody notices. In diplomatic language, this is called reframing the precondition as an agenda item. They didn't surrender. They didn't give in. But they opened a door. The noise is long and painful strikes. The signal is we're willing to talk about Hormuz differently. The oil story is not about oil. Now let's look at this article. Oil prices hitting wartime records, inflation warnings, EU interest rate hikes looming. On the surface, this is an economic story, but I'd argue it's actually a pressure story, aimed directly at Donald Trump. Here's the structure, if you read it carefully. The article warns that if this war becomes a prolonged conflict, global oil markets will stay volatile. Inflation will rise across Europe and Asia, and the EU will have no choice but to raise interest rates. Now, who gets hurt most if European interest rates spike? Global growth slows. Trump's beloved stock market takes a hit. His second-term economic legacy takes damage. This is European allies sending a very specific message to Washington. Wrap this up. The longer this drags, the more it costs everyone, including you. And here's the twist. That pressure works both ways, because Iran's economy is cracking too. This week, the Iranian rial fell to a fresh record low. Iran's oil exports, already strangled by the US naval blockade, are generating almost nothing. The article is noise. The signal is, both sides are feeling the economic clock ticking. And in negotiations, when both sides feel the pressure equally, that's usually when a deal gets done. The May 14th deadline, nobody's talking about. Now let me connect the dots with the biggest signal of all. On May 14th and 15th, Donald Trump flies to Beijing to meet Xi Jinping. This summit was originally scheduled for late March, but got delayed because of the Iran war. The White House rescheduled it to May 14th, and when a reporter asked, "Does this mean the war will be concluded by then?" Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said, and I'm quoting directly, "We've always estimated approximately 4 to 6 weeks, so you can do the math on that." Do the math. If you count 4 to 6 weeks from the ceasefire announcement on April 7th, you land squarely in early to mid-May, right before the Beijing summit. This is not a coincidence. Trump does not fly to Beijing as a wartime president still fighting in the Middle East. He flies there as the man who ended the Iran war, and now wants to reshape the global order with China. That's his leverage. That's his narrative. And narratives matter enormously to Donald Trump. Here's what the signals are telling us. Iran submitted a new proposal to Pakistan mediators just yesterday, May 1st. The US has CENTCOM strike plans on standby, not to launch a war, but to signal urgency. Iran's economy is deteriorating fast. Trump has a hard external deadline, May 14th in Beijing. Every piece is pointing toward the same window, the next 10 to 14 days. What could still go wrong? Now, I have to be honest with you. There is one serious risk to this timeline. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has not been seen in public since he succeeded his father. This week, he issued a rare written statement, read by a state TV anchor, vowing to never give up nuclear or missile capabilities. Is this noise or signal? My read. It's domestic politics. He's consolidating power. He needs to look strong to hardliners inside Iran. The statement was symbolic positioning, not a negotiating ultimatum. But, if I'm wrong, and this reflects a genuine internal deadlock in Tehran, then we could see the stalemate extend beyond May 14th. The Al Jazeera analysis put it well. This could solidify into a semi-permanent ceasefire, neither peace nor war, that drags on for months. That's the bear case. The base case, in my view, remains deal before Beijing. So let me summarize what we found today. Behind the noise. Signal 1. Iran's rhetoric shifted from lift the blockade first to let's build a new legal framework for Hormuz. That's a retreat, dressed up as defiance. Signal 2. The oil price story is a pressure play on Trump from Europe and on Iran from economic collapse. Both sides are running out of time and money. Signal 3. The Trump-Xi summit on May 14th is the hidden deadline that's shaping everything. Trump needs to arrive in Beijing as a dealmaker, not a wartime president. The headlines say, stalemate. The signals say, watch the next 2 weeks very carefully. If a deal happens before May 14th, remember this episode. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you exactly why in the next one. Hit subscribe if you want the analysis that goes beyond the noise, and drop a comment. Do you think there's a deal before Beijing? Yes or no? I'll see you in the next episode. Before you go, a quick but important note. Everything you've heard in this episode represents my own independent analysis, based on publicly available news sources and geopolitical reasoning. The views expressed here are analytical perspectives, not predictions, not financial advice, and not policy recommendations. Geopolitics is inherently uncertain. Signals can be misread. Timelines shift. Leaders change their minds. I do my best to be rigorous and transparent. And when I'm wrong, I'll tell you. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay skeptical. I'll see you in the next episode.